Hello, all my little weirdos, and welcome back to Horror Movie Mondays, where each week I introduce to you a horror movie from the OG slasher days all the way to today's horror scene. Today we are taking it back to Valentine's Day in 1991, when an unexpected banger hit the screens and wowed horror movie fans. It's Jodie Foster's most iconic movie. It's the one movie where Anthony Hopkins chose to be a different kind of monster, one that was composed and had a polite demeanor about him. Today we discuss Hannibal the Cannibal and Miss Hello Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs. We can thank a few people for this movie, number one being the OG brains behind it all. The guy who wrote the novel The Silence of the Lambs in 1988, Thomas Harris. Next is Ted Talley, who took the novel and ran with it, creating a film adaptation of the book. And of course, you can't have a movie without a director, and the man behind this lamb is Jonathan Demme. And when I tell you this slasher took off when it hit the big screens, theaters were packed tighter than a coffin lid. With a budget of $19 million, it grossed over $270 million. But the greatness doesn't stop there because the movie also became the third film ever to gather what is known as the Big Five in Academy Awards. The Silence of the Lambs left the awards that night with a trophy for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, and Best Adapted Screenplay. So really taking it home in all aspects of film creation. Jodie Foster plays Clarice Starling, a top student FBI trainee that is given the opportunity to meet with Dr. Hannibal Lecter while he's incarcerated to help gain insight on an active serial killer that they're trying to capture. Anthony Hopkins plays Dr. Hannibal Lecter, who is a brilliant man, too smart for his own good apparently. Lecter was a psychiatrist by day and cannibal serial killer by night, hence why he was locked up. The killer that Starling and her peers are trying to capture is known as Buffalo Bill, who is a whole mess in itself. Buffalo Bill is played by Ted Levine, and I must say that he really channeled his inner weirdo very well in his part. He plays a serial killer who strategically captures and skins his female victims so he can transform himself into a woman. Total Ed Gein vibes, but we'll get there. He takes his victims hostage, puts them in a well-type hole in his basement, and begins his prepping. He starves them so their skin will loosen up, and you may have heard the term, it puts the lotion on its skin. Yeah, that's Buffalo Bill because he doesn't want a dry lizard lady suit. And spoiler alert, in the end, Clarice does capture Buffalo Bill and saves his latest victim. But meanwhile, Dr. Hannibal Lecter escapes, later calling Clarice on the phone to tell her he's, quote-unquote, having a friend for dinner, which is an epic setup for the movie sequel known as Hannibal. There are 4 movies in the Silence of the Lambs franchise. Silence of the Lambs was released in 1991, Hannibal was released in 2001, Red Dragon being released in 2002, and Hannibal Rising was released in 2007. Now, although it was released that way, it is encouraged to watch this series of movies in a different order. Apparently, you should watch Hannibal Rising first, Red Dragon second, The Silence of the Lambs third, and ending it all with Hannibal. Now, I haven't done that myself, but after researching that, it is definitely on my list for when I have a day to bed rot and binge. I also thought the inspiration behind The Silence of the Lambs was pretty interesting because Buffalo Bill is a mixture of inspiration. Of course, one being Ed Gein with his lady suits, but he was also inspired by serial killers Ted Bundy and Gary Heidnik. Dr. Hannibal Lecter was inspired by a Mexican surgeon named Dr. Alfredo Bali Trevino. The author of this masterpiece, Thomas Harris, actually met Dr. Alfredo in a Mexican prison in the 1960s and was able to interview him. Although the real-life doctor wasn't a cannibal, he was serving a life sentence for murdering and dismembering his lover. And what piqued Thomas's interest was the man's intelligence and elegant yet chilling demeanor, which is exactly how Anthony Hopkins plays Dr. Hannibal Lecter in the movie. And of course, I can't end this episode without doing some research and giving you all an interesting fact about this franchise. And this one is actually about the personal life of one of the actors, and it totally took me by surprise. Anthony Hopkins, aka Dr. Hannibal Lecter, was dating Martha Stewart at the time the movie was released. But Martha ended the relationship shortly after because she was not able to disassociate him from his role in playing Hannibal. Apparently, every time she looked at him, all she saw was Dr. Lecter, which is sad, but I'm sure Anthony Hopkins cried into his $1 million bills that his role made him after that breakup. So that is the story of the horror thriller, The Silence of the Lambs. If you have any other horror movies you would like for me to do an episode on, drop a comment below. And until next time, bye!